Hello there and welcome back to my channel. I'm Claire Jefford, and this video today we are switching it up a little bit because I'm finally launching my podcast, which I'm so excited about. It's called TNT The Naked Truth, Dynamite CLAIRE-ity for your interior design business. And it's going to be much of the same flavor of what I share in my interior design business strategies group, which is on Facebook. It's a free group. If you're not already there, make sure you join. And really, I share every week there videos that are called Widwill, which are my lives, what I do, what I did, and what I learned. And I say Widwill. And really just what you see is what you get. And this one specifically, I'm talking about a real interior design project, like a client project that I did. What was it about this client, this woman, that was specifically very weird for the first hour of my consultation? What should have been my first red flag on this one? I don't know why I'm starting off with this one. Look, you'll hear what I say in the podcast. So go watch it. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and comment below to let me know what you thought of one of my first podcast episodes. And make sure you're following me at the podcast, which is www.clairejefford.com/podcast. You can find all the episodes. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is The Naked Truth, TNT, with your host, moi, Claire Jefford, giving you dynamite clarity for your interior design business. And here you're going to find out about a client who was not very happy with me. I don't know why I'm starting off with this one. It just kind of resonated. It kind of was in my head, and I thought, okay, this is the one I'm going to start with. And I hope that you'll enjoy it. And just to give you a bit of an idea of how this is going to look, it's going to be a real client project. And because I'm just a sucker for acronyms, I've got CLAIRE-ity. So we're going to break it down with a C. I'm going to tell you who the clients are, okay? Who are they? What are their kind of lifestyle, their location, how did they locate me? So the L is for locate. How did they find me? Because I think that's always important to discuss how clients found you, and that is very important to track for your marketing. The assignment is the A, so that's basically the project. What was I hired to do? The I is the initial consultation fee. The R is for rates for the project. So what was my fee and what was the client's budget? E is for events. Okay, so there we've got the CLAIRE, right? There's the CLAIRE and CLAIRE-ity. What happened? What was the story? What was the situation? That's when we get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. And the I is in the end. What was the solution? How did it end? What are the insights? The takeaways is for the T. What I learned, what lesson I learned. And then we've got your turn. So over to you. I want my audience to comment below and share if you've had similar situations or if you would have handled it differently or what your thoughts were on my client project. And I'm going to talk first about this client project. And obviously, I'm not going to say what the client's real names were for obvious reasons. But this first client founded me. This was in 2017. So I was quite a few years into my business in this particular project. And the clients were a couple that were living about a half hour, about 15 minutes from me here in between Burlington and Toronto. And they had a detached home. Probably about a 10-year-old home that they were living in. And they located me, as many people did, especially for the first 5-6 years of my business, through House. I know that's a bit of a naughty word for many people, but I have to tell you, I owe them nothing, they owe me nothing. I don't know. I can't get mad because I've never paid for their actual, I never paid for their service in terms of sponsoring, paying to be sponsored. So that is really important to know just in terms of the reviews. I'm just going to throw that in there. Reviews are important. That's when most people would contact me because they love my reviews and my professional portfolio. So the assignment that they were looking for me to do was they wanted like more of an area. They came in at the back of the house, so as opposed to the front door or garage door, and they were looking to have a storage little area, like a little mudroom, but it wasn't really big enough for a mudroom, but to have some solutions for storage. And then they were also looking to recover some of their kitchen cabinetry. And I don't believe we were moving any sort of walls. And in fact, I think we were going to put one up. So Anyway, so that's what they were looking for. They needed some help in just figuring out how this could look, what their options are, and then obviously picking colors for their cabinetry that they wanted to have repainted or refaced. The initial consult fee at the time was $400. That's what I was charging for a 2-hour consult. My consultations are always 2 hours. And sometimes I'm not sure if it's just going to be a 2-hour consultation or if the clients are going to hire me on further for further design services. I just love to make the consultation as valuable as possible. So I will bring, if I want to bring some fabric books, if they're looking specifically at window treatments, or if they are doing their kitchen, I might bring some countertop samples. I almost always bring my large paint boards, which you'll see in the back of a lot of my YouTube videos, especially for color and design. So I will bring as much as I can. And often what happens is clients will then say, even if they just thought it may have been just an initial consultation, then they often say, hey, you know what? I believe that we want to go forward with further services with you. So you never really know. And if it's just the consult, I'm fine with that too. So the rates for the project. So that time I was charging $125 per hour for my design services and $55 an hour for admin and travel. So I do lower rates. Again, you can decide if that's something you want to do. It's something that I did and I still do actually, because I find that if I was driving down the road for 50 minutes, now at $195 an hour, I may think, oh, am I really billing? And I find that most people, if you're honest with yourself, you are not billing for all of your time. And so if I have a lower rate, then I let clients know that, and then I do bill. So that, drive 50 minutes there and 15 minutes back, that was $75 because it's $125 an hour for that. So however you want to do that is up to you. You may say your time is your time, and that's fine. So let's get on now with the event. So what actually happened? So first of all, I have to tell you that I met with this, just the lady, and when I arrived at the home, she was wearing her sunglasses. She continued to wear the sunglasses for about the first hour of our consultation, which I just found completely odd. Now, I understand if someone has eye sensitivity, light sensitivity, or their eyes are sensitive, that sort of thing. But there was no mention of that. Anyway, so that I know, you don't want to be judgmental, but I did feel that was a little bit of a red flag. It just seemed a little awkward. And then after an hour, she took them off, and there was really no rhyme or reason for that. Anyway, and what happened was I had done some measurements while I was there. Obviously, we talked about what it was that she needed, what she was looking for, what their needs were. And what I found was sometimes I do a measure if I can, if it's small. So this was a small area just in behind of her kitchen area that we wanted to add in some hooks and maybe a bench seat. So I will do some measurements there. If it's a whole house, main floor, then obviously I come back at a second visit with my assistant. We do that together. But this I was able to do on site. And then I also take photos. And I don't know if at this time, but I also do video. So I like to walk through with my camera and say, this is what's happening. Because if you're working, at the time we used to work with anywhere from 8 to 12 clients on different projects. So when you kind of go back, if I don't look back at that video maybe for a week or two, or go back to the client file, it's just a really good refresh of what exactly the client wanted, the space, and especially if you're also handing this off to an assistant or someone else to help you, they can watch the video, you add it to their file, the client's file. So just a really good tip there in terms of using video. And so I said to them what I would do is I did 5 hours. So I said, we're going to do 5 hours. And in that time, this is what I'm going to do for you. So I outlined a bit of the scope of work that I was going to do. I was reaching out to one of the trades who I hadn't worked with before. I'd only met once previously, but I hadn't worked with him before, and that was for recovering cabinetry. And they do different sort of options, whether it's painting or recovering or just doing the doors, that sort of thing. And I believe that was all that we were doing. But in order to add a drawing in, I can't draw. Okay, I can't draw.
This is why I use Chief Architect, the Home Design Pro version, which is $500. And it does 3D renderings, which is amazing. So you do your drawings, and at the flip of a switch, it turns it into the 3D for you. So it's very, very helpful. And at the time, I didn't say to the client that that was something I was going to do. But as I, came back to my studio and I started to do, a drawing, and I was looking at the measurements and trying to come up with some solutions, I was like, this is just going to be the best if I can do a rendering here. It's just going to be easier. And then we made an appointment to return. So then I returned, and I had the drawings done for them. Again, it was just one wall, and I was showing a little bit of the kitchen wall and how it was going to look, with some colors that I had proposed. So I had popped in some colors. Again, I'm not getting really specific here, guys, about what kind of cabinetry is it. I mean, I have a default that I'm on shaker cabinetry in my Chief Architect, because that's pretty much the most popular. But I'm not getting overly concerned at this point with making sure that whatever light fixture I show, or if there was a table in the background, like, I'm not overthinking this, okay? It was really to give the client a really good visual of what this could look like in her space. And then I had the meeting with the gentleman came for the refacing of the cabinetry. And he was there we were actually probably about an hour and a half at that meeting. And I know that I had listed here that I only charged a client, met with a client to review the scope of work. Yeah, I had been there for 2 hours, but I charged her for an hour and a half. Sometimes I would do that and say, only charge for this amount of time. And so then he was there. So he was obviously explaining some things. Now, when he was there, like I said, I didn't know him very well. And he was not overly supportive in helping, in I guess really what I'm trying to say is being aware of the fact that, hey, I brought you in on this. I'm wanting to work together. This is an opportunity, to see how we can do that on this small project going forward. We can have bigger projects. And long and the short of it is, there's a couple mentions that he had said where I had suggested something, and he had kind of just quashed it and kind of thrown me under the bus a little. So like, no, you can't do that. Or, oh, I wouldn't do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So while he was very knowledgeable and helpful, he wasn't overly supportive of me. And, so I'll get a little bit to that when I talk about the insights in the end. So that was that. And then, so after that meeting, really the 5 hours was definitely eaten up at that time, because we'd had that meeting and I'd already done some drawings, of which I see here on the invoice. It took me an hour, but I only charged her half an hour. So again, this isn't something I necessarily recommend. I'm just going back here, guys, to be the naked truth, being totally honest with you here, right, with what I did. And, oh, I sourced some sconces. I guess you wanted me to source some sconces. And yeah, so just think about this. So I'm looking at the invoice here. I had to email, I outlined the scope of work. I contacted the gentleman to do the work for us. I set up the appointment, obviously emailed the clients, emailed the gentleman who was going to do some of the work for us with some pictures, confirm the meeting details. Then we met with them at the client's home to review the cabinetry and the scope of work, everything that we were going through. Yeah, so that meeting I listed there at an hour and a half. Then afterwards, I would email the scope. I would email the next steps, kind of based on what our conversation was. And I then invoiced also the client for the drawings for the nook wall on both sides, kind of the kitchen there. So, when I basically, the long and the short is that when I sent the invoice and I said, we have gone, kind of hit the, where are we here? 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Yeah. So we had basically come up to the 5-hour mark of the project. And I should say in between that I did send her the rendering before we met with the gentleman, and she was blown away. She was like, oh my gosh, I was not expecting this. This is so helpful. I can totally see. Like, she was really over the moon about that. But I will say that I didn't say that that was something that I was going to do. I just realized that as I started to kind of draw it out and get the dimensions, I was like, this is going to be easier for me to convey it to my client if I have a drawing. So I emailed her to say, hey, it was a great meeting with the cabinetry gentleman, and I'm glad that you loved the renderings that I sent you, and we have some ideas on color now. And I said, but we are, the 5 hours is done. And so she emailed back saying basically she was really disappointed that we'd already used up this time. She didn't ask me to do these renderings that I had done for her. even though she had said how helpful they were. She had said that the gentleman that had come was suggesting different things to what I had initially suggested, which is why I bring in my experts so I can talk to them about what are the possibilities. But she felt like some of that meeting was unnecessary, even though at the end of the meeting he left and she was like, wow, that was so great. He was so knowledgeable. Anyway, so basically from there, she felt like she had not gotten her value from our time together, which is obviously very disappointing. And I replied to say, this is quite disappointing, and I'll take off the time for the drawing because, yeah, I didn't say I was going to do a rendering. I just know how helpful that it was going to be for you, but I appreciate that. However, we're still basically, the time was pretty much, 5 hours, which we'll talk about. Okay, guys. So yeah, so she emailed me back and was not pleased at all, and was just just saying she wasn't going to give me a review, and she doesn't know what she has now at the end of this 5 hours, and she spent this $800 or more by the time we'd done the consultation. So yeah, obviously I was disappointed. I thought, so we're always, right, in this industry, we're always like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Which we do need to reflect, but we're always very quick to blame ourselves. So those were the events. Those are kind of what happened. And then that was the end of that. So the solution, how did it end? So I just said how it actually ended. Not on a good note, unfortunately. My takeaway from that, though, so what I learned and what I really want to be able to convey to you guys is the importance that, number one, 5 hours is not enough. So that's number one. Okay. So I never do 5 hours. It's not enough of a minimum of 10 and really 20 hours, because if it's really that easy to get everything done in 5 hours, they probably don't need your help. So everything takes longer than you think, and 5 hours is not enough. So I recommend you not do a minimum of 5 hours. You have your minimum time be 10, even up to 20, depending on the type of projects you take on, the type of clients that you do, and what you can do in that time. Any sort of a rendering allow for an hour minimum, maybe 2, even if it's just a wall elevation. It depends. Maybe you're faster than me, okay? But as I said, everything takes longer than you think. And second takeaway from that is I should have known that trade better. I should have known. We should have, met. We did meet briefly at their store previously, excuse me, because he actually worked for another company that I had worked with, and so he was their specific cabinet maker. And I should have known more about, or explained to him how I work with clients. This is, what I would, respectfully ask, in terms of our relationship, how we're working together. So you should really know if your contractor is going to be handing over a card and saying, this is where I work, or hey, feel free to contact me. I can't really remember if at this point he did. I think he actually did hand over a card. So again, now she could just go and work with him. And again, that's going to depend on how you work and how you run your business. But a lot of designers don't want to give away that contract information. They want to be managing the project. They want to be the go-between so they can make sure things are developing and unfolding as they have envisioned. There we go. So I should have had a little more of a conversation with him first, just maybe an hour at the showroom, really talk about things. And maybe instead of even bringing him right on site, maybe I could have gone to him first and said, okay, this is what I have going on with the client. So instead of doing it via email, I could have said, hey, can we meet for an hour so I can understand maybe what some of the suggestions are, that sort of thing. And I think the other takeaway is, you got to go with your gut. And I just thought the fact that she was wearing sunglasses for an hour and it just seemed very odd. Okay, so, and it wasn't like we were in a room that was like, fluorescent, highly illuminated sort of thing. So going with your gut is huge when you kind of feel that maybe something is a red flag. Okay, so now it's your turn. What did you think about that? Is this something that you've had happen to you? Any of those scenarios sound familiar to you? It's how we learn. So obviously we learn and we get better. So I don't beat myself up about it too much. Of course, it's always disappointing when the client doesn't go through to the end, or you don't get to see how it unfolds, and you don't get that review and have that relationship carry on forward for further, possible jobs. But, what do you think? Tell me, can you relate to this? Comment below if you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, comment below, because this is also being filmed for YouTube. Please let me know, or in the show notes, reach out to me, and I'd love to hear what your comments are on that one. And I want to thank you very much. This has been The Naked Truth, TNT podcast, Dynamite Clarity for your interior design business. I'm Claire Jefford, and I hope that you found it helpful for going through a real client project. There's many more to come, so make sure you stay tuned, and I will be in touch with you. Well, you'll be in touch with me. I'll be around, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.